So, welcome everyone. Today is it's a new webinar series that we're launching, and it sort of is to do two things really, or a number of things. So, firstly, it's to announce a partnership with GriidAI and Together Spatial. Today is partly also to for those who tune into the Points, Lines and Polygons webinar. For the last few weeks, we've ended most of the webinars discussing AI in some form or another. And so it's a very topical subject, AI. It's, where is it taking our industry as a spatial industry? Where is it taking our careers as GIS professionals? And so we've been in discussion with GriidAI, who provide a great GeoAI platform. And we've got Mohamed here from GriidAI, who's really going to be sort of, we're going to sort of co-host today's webinar, and it's really about where AI is going to go, how it's going to affect your career. And the plan is today is the start of a series of webinars every couple of weeks over the next few months. Some will be bit more discussional, like today, where you can ask questions. We can talk about the direction of AI. Some will be more demonstrations of the use of AI within the geospatial industries, and then some will be GriidAI talking in more depth about their platform and how it works and all those sorts of things. So we've got a number of things planned for over the next couple of months. So welcome everyone, and welcome Mohamed. And I'm really excited with this partnership that we're doing with Together Spatial. It helps the partnership from a background point of view, helps with keeping Together Spatial a free platform for members across the Australia, New Zealand region. So welcome, Mohamed, and welcome everyone.
Thank you, Dean, for this great introduction. It's my pleasure and GriidAI pleasure as well to have this collaboration and partnership with Together Spatial. This started with our common vision when we were discussing in the beginning. As you know, it's the same direction that we both heading as the two organizations. And for me personally, the GIS and the geospatial technology, it's in my DNA, we might say. Always would love to support the GIS people and always to add value to the GIS communities internationally, anywhere and everywhere. Just to let me introduce myself very quickly, then we start our casual conversation and getting the questions from the audience. My name is Mohamed. I am Egyptian originally. With the company GriidAI is an American company. It's based in Florida, in Tampa. I started my GIS since 22 years ago. I worked in the GIS from starting building the base maps to the geospatial analytics for business sectors under what we call geomarketing. I worked for some time in market research, applying geospatial data for research purposes in organizations like Nielsen, TNS, and Kantar. Those are the biggest market research agencies in UK and in the United States. Then I started totally different career by starting different ventures, different businesses under the entrepreneurship mindset, if we might say, in software, in consultation, in AI recently, and definitely GriidAI is my recent business I started with my dear partner and friend Uday few years ago. And so excited to be with you today and to start our conversation.
Thank you very much. So I know that, I mean, one of the things that GriidAI has is a number of courses and things, and we'll probably go into them in more details in future webinars. But I guess that is probably in building those courses, that's probably part of where we've led to today. In those courses are helping direct and get people skilled up in the whole crossover, I guess, of more traditional use of software and GIS and geospatial techniques to incorporating AI in some way or another. So I guess, can you make some comments around, those courses and how you've seen it change, I guess?
Yeah, that's one of the main challenge even we were having at the beginning, how we are going to introduce the GeoAI concept. Now all the people are talking the AI is coming to take over our places and replace the people in all industries, not only geospatial industry, but we think differently. Honestly, the AI is adding value and we add value to the AI. And that's was the common ground that we started all our training programs and our sessions to how to evolve our capabilities as human when we rely on AI, especially for the repetitive tasks. But what else or other values that human might keep and will still keep to direct the AI for better outcomes, for better quality of results and faster type of analysis that we can resolve. This was the DNA of our courses that we started, that always we need to focus on what is the core value of the human in the AI, in the GIS process, if we might say, versus what we can rely on the AI 100% to focus on.
So I guess that sort of leads us to, how do you see people's role changing, in the short term and into long term, and then using, tools like GriidAI to actually complement that process rather than, we want to work with AI, as you sort of said. We're not trying to replace the professionals, and we want to sort of, build that, as a tool which enables us to be more productive, to do better work.
Perfect. That's a good question. That's exactly how we use AI in general. The human experts and the geospatial, they need to keep two things to do always, even with the AI. The first thing is to understand the core of the analysis that they run. We always need to keep this knowledge, this geospatial aspect or the location aspect. This is not very easy to the AI to understand, but we have this privilege over the AI. And the second thing is to treat the AI as a team member. That means we don't need to focus on the implementation of the process or the flow or the analysis, but always we need to guide the AI to do it better, to give instructions in a more clear way, to revise the outcomes of the AI. By understanding the core function of GIS or geospatial and direct the AI to do the job, that's our role now. That's what's changing. Previously, we were focusing on the concept, the core knowledge, the planning phase, defining the data, cleaning up the data, running the analysis, presenting the analysis afterwards to the decision makers. But now it's changing because all the implementation part AI can do and take care of, and we are the maestros to direct the AI and what to do and what to focus on. And we focus on the business value that we bring for the decision maker beside our core knowledge and understanding of the core technology itself.
And so what sort of new skills do you think people should be aiming to acquire to then to better, if you're starting your career, you obviously don't have, all that experience, but you want to be able to make sure that you're in a good position to continue and work with the tools. So what sort of skills would you recommend people sort of arm themselves with to, ensure that their career is going to have some longevity?
Yeah, another two things, but as well for this one. The first thing is to deepen our knowledge in the GIS and geospatial core. Because sometimes, as you all know, when we rely on some tools in any GIS software, we don't focus on how the tool works as much as the outcome that we want. Now it's the time to understand how it works, because this will deepen our knowledge and secure us as well, not to be replaced by the AI. The second thing, believe it or not, it's not related to GIS, it's just communication. It's how to communicate what we want, how to use the correct and most accurate and clear words explaining what we have in mind. Especially in the geospatial technology world, sometimes it's a bit hard to explain even what kind of site suitability means for a retail store, or what kind of raster type of analysis we need to do for like a drone company or an insurance company. But now it's time to start learn more how to communicate in text as well, what we want, and understand the deep of the tools of GIS to make us more capable to judge the outcome of the AI and redirect the tools to get us the better quality of outcomes.
Yeah, and I think that's it's sort of how we almost started our conversation, in that I had tried GriidAI for a project that I was working on, and I just didn't communicate very well. I knew what I wanted, and but I just didn't structure, the AI prompts very well to give me the outcome, and I think I was, I'm in a reasonably good position, because I was able to then look at the results and go, this isn't right. And then we had that discussion and we went, all right, well, we just need to, improve the prompt, improve the information we're providing, improve what outcome we want. And then I was doing a digital elevation model in a sort of a project in Southeast Asia was the test area, and so that iteration enabled me to come up with a really good thing, and so I agree 100% with you there. It's probably it's not just about AI. How many projects do we work on, whether that be in the geospatial sense, where you start doing something and you're given some instructions, but it hasn't been conveyed very well. So you go down a path and then they go, well, that's not really what I meant. And so it's the same sort of scenario, whether we're communicating with others doing the work as it is, the tools that we're wanting to help with help with the work. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, I might add something here as well. The AI capability to run the analysis and get us the outcome. By the way, it educates us to pivot and optimize our communication in a faster way. Because imagine you're delegating the task for a teammate or a team member. He or she might take like some few days or might be hours to execute the task and come back and you discover, oh, this is not what I had in mind. I explained it in a wrong way. But with the AI, if you did this like in seconds or minutes, you get the outcome, you shift your mindset, and you start to re-communicate what you want. And that's indirectly educate us how to communicate in a better way as well.
Yeah, and I think it allows us to iterate, in a better way. Jeff, you've got your hand up. You want to ask a quick question?
Yeah, I do actually. I agree with everything that you guys are talking about. I don't actually have a problem using AI, and I've done it quite a bit for developing models and automating procedures in GIS and non-GIS work. The problem that I have is that it doesn't follow the instructions that well. And you get to a particular stage of doing a particular task, and it just goes off track, or it doesn't get the calculations right. And I was working on a spreadsheet this morning, and pretty much got all the calculations wrong. And so I guess what the question is how do we ground truth the let's say we've done a script or a program that in Python that automates a particular GIS process. How do we make sure that that script is actually producing the right outcomes? How do we ground truth that accurately? And I think that's a key point that I'd like to make, and it goes for any type of AI tool that you're using. That's what I was getting at. If anyone's had the same problem.
I certainly agree 100%. And I think Mohamed can obviously talk from a tool and, the way that it's been developed point of view. But, and I think this is really an important point about how we make sure that our careers are fulfilling and we're not being replaced, because you need the understanding that the results are incorrect. And so you were able to look at it at your spreadsheet, or it can be, my example of when I was doing this digital elevation model, I was able to look at it and you were able to look at your spreadsheet and go, this is wrong. And so therefore, is it wrong because I gave it, as we just said before, is it wrong because I gave it the wrong instructions, or do I need to improve the way that I speak to it? But you're still going to need those people, yourself, the other parts of members of your team, whoever, to have that knowledge to be able to look at the data, look at the outcome and say, this is good, or no, it's not. And so where did it go wrong? And I've seen the longer the chain that I think with any AI, my very simplistic explanation is that like AI seems to remember the last few steps. And so if you have 10 steps behind that, then it's going to start to drop off some of those steps because they're all sitting in memory, and it's just, memory takes up, time. And so it only goes back. And so therefore, the longer the chain gets, the more likely it is to, hallucinate or get wrong. So you want to try and keep each of your processes nice and short. I mean, I'll let Mohamed comment more about that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's the same what we said. Like always, you need to test whatever models or scripts with a sample of your data that you have. But we have to consider something very important and crucial at the meantime here for the AI part. If we're comparing that we're running just normal script, like before the AI era that we're living in now, you just need to validate the data. The script can be clean written. It's very accurate, and you can test it very easy, and just you need to manage the quality of the data. But now with the AI that we currently use, there is an extra layer you need to validate as well, because sometimes the issue could be the AI model itself. Some models are very smart with numbers. Some other models are much better with visual designs and coloring when we create the maps. So that's like, it requires much more deep knowledge, not only in the AI, in the geospatial technology, but as well in the AI capabilities and the different models and the different scripts and the different machine learning libraries that you're relying on. So that will require more knowledge. So that's better for us. That will keep us in a better position when we compare our value to the AI, because as I said, we are the maestros. So now you have an extra layer to control. It's the AI.
And so thanks, Jeff, for that question. And so that probably brings me, if you have a question, like Darcy has just done, then just put your hand up or put it into the chat. So yeah, go for it. Sorry, Crystal, because you mentioned. So go for it, Crystal.
Hi. I am a lecturer at Charles Sturt University. We teaching geospatial science. So I love that, Mohammed, you said about that we need to understand the basics of GIS because absolutely. But what we're trying to do in creating the GIS professionals of the future is arm them with the knowledge of how to use GeoAI. And obviously in GIS, we've been using AI for years with our machine learning and clustering and things like that. So it feels like when we are talking about AI, I'm not sure if all of us are talking on the same page. And so I feel like to go backwards to our future professionals and arm them with the knowledge of to come out into the world and start talking about GeoAI and really understanding. I was wondering, from your perspective, Mohammed, what do you think a professional coming into the sector needs to know about the actual background of AI? For example, like how the neural networks work and the difference between a large language model and agentic AI and things like that. Like what's your perspective on that level of understanding?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, in the geospatial, when the AI started like 3-4 years ago, the people were very impressed by the AI capabilities, but the people working in the geospatial, we were using AI 20 years ago. The change detection, it's AI, it's machine learning. We're just educating the models of what objects on the satellite imagery, and AI works. But it was like limited capability of AI compared to what we have right now. I think now that what has changed is the generative concept of AI, because AI is able to generate new things, especially in education. As I think you might use this. Now anyone can just ask any AI tool how to learn using this kind of function. Explain to me this kind of analysis. That's the big shift that happens in the AI. For the geospatial, back to your question and point, like when we define what AI is for geospatial students and the new generation of AI, definitely we need to add this extra layer, like agentic AI, generative AI, how it works. It's not a must to go very deep in like explaining too much about the neural networks or the how we can build sophisticated AI models for GIS or geospatial. We can do this for sure, but it doesn't require, because now AI can write the code. We can use most of the libraries that already publish. A lot of those libraries are open source. For what I'm saying here, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Already there are a lot of models. Already there are a lot of machine learning libraries available online and everywhere. The capability that we might need to educate the students or the young generations on how to pick the proper and correct library, not to reinvent something that's already there. No need to do this, but on how to judge. The same question we just answered before your question is to learn how to pick the correct tool for the function. A lot of, and that's, by the way, that's one of the internal debates we have always internally for GriidAI team. Which libraries are we going to use and embed in the system for, let's say, any kind of raster analysis? We find tens of different libraries doing the job, but which one is the best one? Which one is the less consuming of AI tokens? which one is more adding value for this type of analysis. Sometimes you might find two of different libraries. The difference in the outcome is very little. It's a fraction of an outcome. But sometimes we prefer like option A than option B, because option A is much proper for the industry that we work on, like if we're working in mining, for instance. But this kind of skill is very important. And what scares me for this part, and this as well, big part of our conversations internally with the team, that the tools are very, very, very huge. A lot of options are there. But it's becoming much more harder even to do the comparison. That's why even in the architecture of GriidAI, we build a model to test the AI libraries and pick the best one, like here, the maestro of the maestro, if you might say. That's a big, very important kind of skill. I think new generations need to learn how to test different options and pick the best.
And I do think that's not necessarily just AI, in terms of, if we go back to, a more IT example, that, we had programming languages like COBOL and Pascal and BASIC and, all of those sorts of things. And now we've evolved to C and Python and R, and, and all of them have their strengths and weaknesses. R is really good at statistical analysis and modeling and all that sort of stuff, and Python really good for quick automation within an ArcGIS environment, if that's where you're using it. And so I think that goes back to part of Crystal's there's lots of tools out there, and trying to find the right tool for the right application is part of that investigative part of all of what we do, and using the right tool for the right job, not just going, AI is going to help me do this. But if you pick the wrong one, as you said, different AI models do different things. So if you pick the wrong one, and this is, I guess, will be hard. I certainly take my hat off to you, Crystal, from a point of view of how do you teach someone what the right one is? Because we're very early in the whole AI ecosystem, from it being so widely used, that models are coming up, new models are coming up, daily, weekly, monthly. So how do you keep up with that? That's a hard question to do. And then I guess, but that's probably where, organizations like yours, Mohamed, can be doing that behind the scenes, and then going, all right, we've got these models. Our tool, try to find the best where it can. So
yeah, that's what we are focusing on. That's part of our vision in GriidAI. And big part of the shift, like of what type of skills, if we in our conversation, even if you recall the points previously, the skills, if we said like 50-50 for the geospatial technical skills versus soft skills, it was like 70% for the technical skills. But now it's for the soft skills, it might be 80% and only 20% for the technical skills. And that's the main challenge in the new generation of GIS people. Yes, they need to understand the technology for sure. That's the baseline. We cannot cross this line. But on the other side, they need to learn how to test the models, how to write the proper prompts, like communication, how to express what they want, how to check the outcomes, like to do the quality checks. So here, as if, like, just to give an example, as if we're getting a fresh grad on a team lead position, but he's leading AI, not leading human experts or human users.
Okay, so we might, like, I think it's actually been good when people have been asking questions, because I think that's really taken it to that next level. So if you do have a question, either just take yourself off mute or put your hand up or virtually and throw your questions out there, because I think this is it's a topic that we're, as I said right at the start, we seem to be coming around to it so regularly, and it's an integral part of what we do on a day-to-day basis now. Even if it's for just the other day, I had a SQL statement that I just couldn't get right, when I'm typing away, and then I went, all right, I'm just going to throw that into ChatGPT, and it went, all right, here's where you're wrong, and it probably saved me another hour of playing around, but I was then able to move on to what I was actually trying to do. So I think the technology is really getting there and allows you to be more productive. But it's not, I'm not saying to AI, go and do this entire process for me. I'm using it as a tool, the same way as that you use a module within ArcGIS or a plugin in QGIS or a Python script. You're using it as a tool to help you get that process along the way. So any questions that people raised in people's minds, or any further things that you would like to raise, Mohamed?
Yeah, I might share, yes, the mindset or how we think about GIS is definitely changing right now. Not only on the execution level of the analysis of the work, but as well as how we treat the GIS tasks. Like previously, all just GIS kind of tasks or work, it was communicated to us as GIS projects. It's project. It's not just a simple task like writing a document or generating a report. We have to think from the very early beginning on the data, how we can get it, the quality of the data, the validations that we need to have, then combining and overlaying these data, especially if it's different formats, different sources, different coordinate system or projections. That's a very hard work, and that's like the most hard type of work to prepare the data to get inside the GIS system. Then they run the analysis itself and getting the outcome of the analysis. And the other hard part for the GIS people, the technical people, is communicating these outcomes, and communicate it not only in a technical kind of mindset or wording. It has to be more of a business keywords, like simplifying this complicated thing into business keywords, into some numbers or some outcomes that helps the decision maker to take the action. It's a very big story. It's not just writing a report. The AI changing all of this, and the AI will be part of all the steps and will track all of this in a very short time. I think Joshua has a question.
Joshua?
Yeah. So one thing that, so I'm coming from someone who has done some teaching of GIS, but also have done a little bit of dabbling with artificial intelligence work. The one thing that I've found in communicating artificial intelligence, even things that have existed in the geospatial kind of analysis with machine learning and things like that. If you say machine learning, probably many of us in this presentation will know what that means, but we need to be able to explain that, drawing upon your communication thing, in simple terms. We need to be able to take those AI concepts, those AI tools, and be able to explain away the black box of them, and how they're being used. So I've found that that's something that students need to know how to do, because they they know, oh yeah, I can make it work, but they don't know why it works. To just kind of, maybe I'm just repeating everything that you've already said, but I think it's very true, that they they know how to use the tools, but they don't know how to explain what the tools did.
Yeah, yeah, that was one of the challenge that even I had in my very early career. Like all the GIS tools has, these toolboxes in all the tools that we use. It has the technical terminology for each tool, and the tool has technical explanation, but we never had business explanation. And this was a big question in my mind. Like in my first 5 or 10 years after I get in the GIS career, I need to understand for what purpose I can use this tool. What question, business question, when I get from my clients, I say that this is the proper tool to use. No one answers this question till now. But AI started to be the tool to explain to us this kind of analysis. It's very technical, explained in the toolbox, but it replies the question of this client who want to get the proper location to open a new store for his shop. So that's one of the biggest values of AI as well, to transform the knowledge from the very sophisticated technical wording into the natural and business, very basic, very light type of wording for anyone can understand.
I have an interesting example, and I think it's sort of similar in vein. When I was at uni, so a while ago now,
2 years
I did a
ago,
sub,
5 years ago.
yeah, I did a subject called spherical trigonometry, and it was one of my favorite subjects. But it was essentially the mathematics behind projections, and I loved it from a point of view of being able to go, well, why does this projection work, and what are the factors that it uses? The different parts of the Earth, and the radiuses and all that sort of stuff. But then within the software, you can now go, oh, I want to use this projection. Now, so the GIS technician of today doesn't even really need to understand what that projection does, or how it's created, and therefore they could choose a projection that is totally wrong for the map or the analysis or whatever they're trying to do. And I think all of these things, Joshua's question and what Mohamed said and Crystal's has said, it's really that understanding that we want to, educate people with, rather than just accept that the tool and whether that's machine learning, AI, the software tool, whatever it happens to be, you understand what it's doing. Not necessarily right down to that mathematics level. You don't necessarily need to know that, although I really like that. But you need to then understand why it's giving you the output that it is. What is that tool best for? Jeff, you have a question?
Yeah, just briefly, I guess coming from a point of view whereby people used to do certain tasks, and now in a work environment, and now it's obviously been replaced by AI. How do organisations now factor that into cost, labour costs and things like that? I guess what I'm saying, I'm trying to allude to, is that a lot of stuff that used to be done by people, and typical responses that are generated by AI, that's now a cost being taken up by machines and computers, and it means that people's inputs are less valued now, I guess. Do you have any Anything to say about that, Mohamed? Any insights?
Can you rephrase it or repeat the question, Jeff?
Yeah. What I'm getting at is that you're obviously prompting to AI to actually carry out a task that used to be more kind of completed by interaction between people. So what, going forward, there's obviously not that input from people, less so, more so by AI. And that's quite a cost for the organisation, I guess. That's what I'm getting at. Do you have any insights into that?
You mean, let me repeat what I got. Your question, the cost for organizations when they rely more or not rely on AI tools. This is your question?
Yeah, that's right. So previously there used to be more human interaction, human thought into the process. Now all that people need to do is type in and say, "Oh, I need you to do this output," but it's kind of how does that particular organization factor that into costs? And going forward, I guess it's quite a big question, but it needs to be addressed because it'll mean that people's input is less required, less down the line, I guess, and more automated, more done by AI in the future. And I think that's probably the key thing I'm getting at.
Yeah, I'll tell you, and here two things we might mention for this part. Let's agree on the GIS or geospatial is a light, low labor type of. Low by mean like low count of members are required by organization. I remember I was working for a company. It was 10,000 employees, and we were only 3 GIS people. We were doing all the GIS related work for the whole organization internationally. The GIS or geospatial is already it doesn't require two big teams, not like the surveying, for instance. Surveying requires big teams of surveyors to capture the data. So that's number one. Number two, definitely it might affect the cost of the organizations, but the organization's cost here for me, I see it gives the industry, the geospatial industry, a very big edge now with the AI to get more people using GIS, get more organization relying on GIS. Because the same point that Joshua was mentioning, one of the barriers of organizations to rely on GIS, because they don't understand it. They don't understand the potential behind relying on geospatial analysis and the impact for their business on how they can get out of the GIS. But with AI, it's much easier for them to learn more and understand geospatial, to start involve the GIS and geospatial in their operations. Very easy. How GIS can support my marketing team. Marketing is not just the ads that we do on Facebook. No, it's much bigger thing. Location, it has a big aspect of marketing and sales and distribution, and even in this lead generation. All of this AI with geospatial, the geo AI, it adds very big value for the organizations. The second thing, for organizations, even the ones that never use GIS, now we are started to see some new type of GIS users. They never use GIS. They never even, it was very hard for any one of us in this conversation to convince someone that GIS can support you, because we didn't have the tools and the terminologies to convince those type of people to use GIS. With the AI, they can do this because they just talk their language and the AI understand what they want, then translate it to the geospatial language and get the outcome for them. And last thing, the GIS or the geospatial, and that's in GriidAI, you can ask GriidAI in whatever language, not only the terminology of the domain, but as well in really language. And I can talk to the GriidAI in Arabic. I can talk to it in Spanish, in French, in Chinese, in Indian. But the same tool understands whatever wording you write to it, in whatever language you're writing to it, in whatever domain you have. And that's a big edge. And we expect that the geospatial industry will boom in the coming 5 years. And that's like the chance for geospatial to grow very, very fast.
And I do think, Jeff, part of what I think you were trying to get at is organizations, if they, you're seeing a lot of these really big organizations like Microsoft and stuff like that putting off lots of people because they're replacing it with AI. And I think those organizations do it at their peril, because the way I see it is, yes, it can replace some of those low-level repetitive type tasks. When things go wrong, you look at what happened with Optus and a few other things of recent times. When things go wrong, you need someone to understand that process of what the output's doing. So instead of putting people out of a job, and replacing with AI, my look at it is that they should just move those people up the chain. Yes, replace some of those basic things with AI if that's appropriate, but then those people who may have been doing those lower level tasks, you make them the QA, QC people. They're checking the data, checking the output, making sure that what's coming out is then fit for purpose to then be used for the reports or the maps or the analysis or whatever. Now, that's an interesting debate that business owners and managers, need to factor in, because if they rush and just replace people, I think then we end up with this hole of people who won't know how to actually interpret the results. All right, so Joshua, we might just, we're pretty well out of time, but go for it, Joshua. We'll, I don't mind going for a few extra minutes if Mohamed still is. So
I'm reflecting upon what has been said today, but also a LinkedIn post that I found earlier this week about AI and GIS. And what I thought was really poignant about it was that the person said AI doesn't understand geography, it understands patterns in data, and geography is data, and that the point of it was that the geographic data still needs to be prepared well by someone who knows the spatial side of things, so that they can put it into a pattern recognition tool.
yeah, I agree 100% there, that it's the same adage that, if you're just telling AI to go and find me a rivers data set to do some hydrological analysis, then it might find one, but is that data set fit for the purpose that you're wanting to use it for? And that's where I think I did a post on metadata earlier in the week, and that's where metadata, like it's a boring subject, but I think it's now going to become even more important with AI, because AI will grab that metadata and go, is this suitable for the purpose? And that's part of the communication. You'll go, I need a rivers data set that has been captured at a scale better than 1:50,000, not just give me a rivers data set. You need, so Mohamed, do you have a comment on that as well?
Yeah, I think, that challenge with GIS data, it has a lot of aspects and a lot of details that we should take care of. And that's what we resolve in GriidAI, like to have GriidAI capable to understand geographic data. That's what we already did to educate the AI on how to understand geographic data. Yes, it's data at the end, but because it is a complicated type of data, it has projections, it has metadata, and projections has the datum, and whenever we're moving these data from region to another, what kind of change of the projection or the coordinate systems. For all of these data details or the metadata about the data itself, it complicates the understanding of the data itself. That's why GIS people are very smart and we understand something very sophisticated. Sometimes we cannot explain for some people, but the AI is able to do this somehow if we guide it. And that's the value of us, gentlemen, in this call, that to educate the AI very well on how to read the geographical data with all the knowledge we have, because believe me, it's not easy to understand. Always educate the people when they use AI, normal AI with normal data. You need to understand the data and educate the AI and explain how the AI understand and simulate how human understands the data. But simulation of GIS people or simulation of us, this is not easy. This is very complicated because it has a lot of details in the data of geography or location. And that's, I think we're lucky that because we work in this industry, and that's we might have some more time, more than anyone else, to the AI to be capable to replace us.
Yep, I agree. And I take my hat off to Crystal and Joshua trying to educate our new people coming through. But it's also, I guess, it's part of our role, even, someone like me who's more towards the end than I am the beginning. It's still important for us to educate and keep learning and be involved. And so on that, we might wrap up for today. If you do have any questions that's come out of today, then certainly reach out to me and I'll forward them on to Mohamed. We can get those questions answered. But as I said right at the beginning, this is the start of an AI geospatial series that Together Spatial and GriidAI are putting together. The next session's in a few weeks or a couple of weeks' time, and it'll probably be at that sort of frequency every couple of weeks, probably on a Friday. And we will on slightly different topics. So invite your colleagues along. If you have questions, then just forward them to me and we can shape them around future webinars. So thank you, Mohamed. Thank you, everyone who's joined today. Thank you for the GriidAI team that have tuned in as well. Your day's on there, I can see. So thank you. And I appreciate all the questions and appreciate all your time. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.